Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we are going to be doing a little bit of design work. So, as we're going to be working on screen, I do have a couple of devices that are hopefully going to show me the chat. So, first of all, don't be afraid to say hi and ask questions. We're a very friendly bunch. And secondly, I'm working in Affinity Designer V2, so if you are thinking it looks a bit different to what you've seen on previous streams, that's what it is. We've got the upgraded version. So, has anybody had a go yet at designing their own t-shirts? So, today I'm going to be working with my logo, and I want to talk about a few different approaches that we can have. Morning, Carol. So yes, you're not walking today. I may be doing ballet class tomorrow, so hence there is going to be a little bit of a change of schedule this week. So we'll see how that goes for future weeks. But we've got a big stream Thursday because it's going to be a bit of an ease up, and we're going to be finishing off the t-shirt. So, with our logo, I want you to kind of pretend that this is any kind of image. So this could be a JPEG file, this could be PNG, or as in this case, an SVG. So what we want to do is try and replicate the logo as closely as possible. And there's a couple of ways that we can do this. So if you want to keep this nice sort of glow that we have around our text, then what you're going to want to do is to use something like printable vinyl. Fingers crossed, Deb, that you can stay. If you want to, on the other hand, use lots of flat colour vinyls so that we're getting a lot of colour punch for our money, then what you're going to need to do is you're going to kind of want to cut it apart. And I want to show you both kind of options so that you can see the routes to get in there. So I have my logo file, and hiding behind I have just an A4 document. And the reason that I've done an A4 document with printable area is that we could potentially be printing this onto a transfer sheet. So let's start off with that process first. How do we go about it? Okay, so we've got our image, and at the moment it's SVG, so this is all vector shapes. You're going to see they're sitting just in here, and we have a couple per colour, and that's because there's a transparency going on. It's all very snazzy, but we're going to take that file and make sure we have everything selected. So we're going to see that it's all blue. These are within a group anyway, so they're selected here, so don't worry about that. We're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it onto our transfer. Okay. I'm going to group it, and that's so that we're keeping that relationship as one. Now, as I said, there is an effect applied on this text so that we have this kind of glow effect going on. And if I scale this up, you're going to see that glow isn't scaling with it. So it looks like that glow is getting narrower. But what it actually is that it's staying the same, so everything else is getting bigger. So if we undo that, I'm going to drop down my group, drop down this one here, and we can see that we have an effect applied to each one of these objects. Now, that's a bit of a clumsy way of doing it. So, I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to turn it off. But before I do so, you're just going to want to make a note roughly of these settings. Okay, so we'll say 33 pixel radius, and everything else we'll work out from there. So, let's turn that off. And we'll do the same here. And on this one. and on this one. Okay, and instead we're going to go to the group, so that's all of the text. We can go to effects, and instead of applying all individually, we can do it as one. So first of all, we're going to tick our outer glow box, and we're going to set that to 33. That's going to give us our glow back. Now our intensity was a little lower, so let's take it back there. Okay. But down in this bottom corner we have something that says scale with object. Now when we're working with logos or anything that is going to be represented at different scales, you're going to want to make sure that that box is ticked and then close. So we can click off it, back on it, and now we've got our whole group selected. And now we can go, okay, now we'll have it bigger please. Okay, and we could go a bit mad if we wanted to. And have it massive across our t-shirt. So at the moment this would go a landscape across a sort of large to triple extra large t-shirt. If you're working on something like a medium or small, you may want to just rotate that paper around. But so far so good, and we can see that our glow is scaling correctly. So there's one tick off the list of things to do. So, okay, you don't have the print to cut add-on, or make believe if you have at the moment that you haven't got it, okay? And where can you go from there in terms of being able to cut out this transfer? So you're going to see that there's lots of little elements around here that are going to be separate from our transfer sheet. But if we were to just apply it as a block, so literally don't cut around the edges and just apply it as an A4 sheet, you can get like a halo around your design, which isn't what we want. Particularly if you are working with a t-shirt for, try that again, a transfer for a dark t-shirt, get the words in the right order. So how can we get around it? Well, first of all, we're going to need to set up some way of being able to register our cut file. So I'm going to start off nice and simply by just working at my layers. So I'm going to go into my panel here, my layer panel. Let's pull it out so it's a little bit easier to see, maybe. Okay, and I want a new layer. And I'm going to call this layer print. And I'm going to drop that image into that layer. So that's saying straight away that is the print version. I'm going to do another layer, and let's call that registration. So keeping that layer selected, we're going to go to our little square tool, and we can just go and pop a square in the corner. Now, first things first, let's make it nice and dark. And the reason we do that is so that we can see it on our scanner nice and clearly. Okay. Now, if you are going to be doing this in, let's say, silhouette, you wouldn't need to bother doing these registration marks because that has its own. Okay, this is literally if you have no other way of doing it on your scan and cut, so that we can kind of line up our design. Okay, so we've got our registration marks in, and we can see that they are sitting quite happily in our registration there, and I'm just going to group them. And this little padlock here is our lock unlock, so we're going to lock those in place. So that means even when we're busy working, we can't accidentally select or move our registration marks. Quite important. So let's shrink that up because that layer is now done. We're going to do another new layer, and this is going to be cut. Now let's say you were doing some stickers or something like that. Then you can create another layer for foil, another one for draw, and so on and so forth. Okay. And morning, Mum. Sorry, I forgot to get the YouTube chat up as well. Okay. So we've got this kind of almost there, but we need to do this cut line. And as I said, if we do a cut line, we're going to end up with all these little pieces kind of floating around as little bits of transfer. Not ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that group, I'm going to duplicate it, so that's Command and J on a Mac or Control and J on a PC. We're going to take that group and we are going to drop it straight in to our cut layer. Okay. Now, everything we do, we want to make sure that we are working on that group and not in our print one. So, we're going to make use of our lock again. It's only temporary, but we're going to lock that bottom layer. So that means, again, we can't accidentally select it or move it. So, going back to our group up here, we now need to do this cut line. So, first things first, what we need to do is go into our effects and we need to delete it. Okay. And the reason we do that is if there is an effect that is in your cut file when you go to export it to SVG, it is going to create it as a raster image that it's going to try and bring in when you try and take it into Canvas. So you definitely want to make sure that you are getting rid of that. So next we have all of these groups. Now obviously we only need one version of this splodge, we don't need two. So let's delete that. We're going to do the same with each of the splodges. And it's going to look like they're vanishing, and it's not, it's just that they're white. Okay. We're then going to ungroup them because there's only one shape there. So that's Command-Shift-G on a Mac or Control-Shift-G on a PC. And we're going to select our three splodges and we're just going to fill it in black. Okay. And we'll do the same for our text. So again, just fill it in black. So you should have something that now looks like this. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those shapes and we're going to weld them into one. So at the top we have all our calculation buttons. So we're going to take that and we're going to weld. So essentially then, if I take that fill back out, you can see that we have a black outline that's going around. So let's make that black outline a bit bigger so you can see it. There we go. Okay, so that's going to be cutting around the outside of our text. But we've still got these issues of these here. So how can we get around it? So one way that we can do it is we can use offset to actually create that cut line a little bit out and hopefully start to join some of the elements. So let's go to our contour tool, which is a little bit different for V2 in terms of appearance. And we're going to take that out. Now, if it's good, come on, other way. Out we go. God, I love it when it's going to be awkward. This way, come on, out. Right, if it's misbehaving, up in this top section here, just going to have to think about it now because it's going to throw wobbly. But up here you have the radius section. And that's saying about the amount of offset you want. So if you're familiar with offset in Canvas Workspace, for instance, you know that usually you would just type the amount and off it goes. Affinity tries to be a little bit clever in terms of giving you this manual way of putting it in by doing the drag. But as you can see, sometimes it's a little bit too processor heavy and it just gets a little bit carried away. And let's see if we can sort that out. Or is it going to crash? Oh joy. Let me just hop back to remote for a minute. Right. I'm just going to hop to the interruption screen just so that I can restart Affinity. Just because you don't need to see all the bump that runs the stream behind the scenes. So bear with 5 minutes, if that. Okay, so quick restart later and off we go. So let's go back to our offset again. Now our radius also has a slider as well, so you've got lots of different ways that you can manipulate the offset. So I want to go positive so that we're going outside, and then you can see that as the shape meets itself, it's going to automatically weld. Now there's a few little bits and pieces, so sometimes you'll see something like this here, and that's just where it's got a little bit of an issue with the actual underlying shape, but you can usually sort those out pretty easily. So let's just take that a little bit more. So you're looking to make sure that all those elements touch something else. Now we've gone up to the far end of the scale, but we can see that things still aren't touching. So at that point we can go, okay, we won't use the scale anymore. And let's try 8. 8 might be overkill, but yeah, it's a little bit overkill. Let's go 6. There we go. So we can see that we've got a join there, got a join in most of these other places. Ignore all the little shapes and everything should be fine. Okay, because all we want to keep is just this outside shape. So once you're happy with that, you're going to go to bake appearance, and that kind of sets that offset in place and gives you all the individual shapes. So in the layers palette here, you can see that we've still got just one shape that has all these individual little elements in. And you could go through with the node tool and delete all these little pieces, and you know what, it's going to take so long, there's no point. So I'm going to use divide, and that's going to split everything up, and then we can see where things have gone a little bit haywire. So you can see we've got lots of little points like this. So all these little pieces we can just get rid. She says, there's one that's obviously, and there we go. If you do that, there's one there that's just slipped through the net, and let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so we've got a break in our path here. So if I select that one, you can see there's a little bit of an issue here. Select this one, and it's going to go around there. So let's sort out this point here first. So I'm going to zoom in, and you won't have to do this all the time, just sometimes it's a little bit weird. So this bit here is right, this one here is wrong. So we're going to take that point out, and we can convert that to a curve, and we can follow this curve round. going to select both in the layers palette. So to do that, I just press and hold shift and then tap the other curve. I'm going to draw a square over our two endpoints. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually join those two together. So we can go join. So it's going to take those 2 points and draw a line between the two. And you're going to see that it then looks like it's closed the curve. Now, it may not have completely closed the curve. So if we go back to our red point here, we know that's our start end point. So if there is an issue, that's where it's almost certainly going to be. And we can see there's a little bit of a kink just here. Okay, so if I take that point there, we do that, we can see, hang on, something isn't right. Let's take that out. And we can do the same again. Take that out. And let's close the curve. So we now have our cut line. Ta-da! So that's how we can work with a transfer vinyl, whether that's printable HTV or a t-shirt transfer. Either way, that's how you can work with it. Okay, that's all well and good, but it wastes a lot of material in some ways because you are essentially doing away with all this material around the outside. So what other ways could you work? You could get two onto one A4 sheet, for instance, and then go from there. Or we can go for the other route and do a multicolour vinyl. So before I go too far, let's do a quick save as. And let's go for a paintable vinyl. Okay, so we've done that one. Let's start a new document. And again, I'm going to go for, let's go for our Scan and Cut Activate area 12 by 12. I'm going to create that in. And the reason I'm going to do that is because now I'm going to be working with sheets of vinyl. Okay. So again, we're going to take our logo, copy it, and we're going to paste it in. Now this time we aren't going to be worried about the glow, so we can take that off in a minute when we're kind of happy with our scale. So this might be that you have it smaller to go on a pocket. Let's just move that second so I can do this nice and easy. So it could be that we're going to do it that size to go on a pocket. We could do it big to go on the front of the tee or on the back. So you can kind of play with it and see what you want to do in terms of scale. But once you're happy with the scale, then we can kind of do all the prep work. So this time, rather than having a registration mark that you're going to want to actually cut out of your HTV, you might decide instead that you want to create something that is going to kind of interlock and it's going to be easier for you to apply without having registration marks. So first of all, let's go into this group and we're going to turn off the FX again. And close. So I'm just double clicking to access one tick in the box, and that's just turning off the effects. Okay. And in these groups, this time I'm going to get rid of the white ones. So So you can see that with the colour it's transparent, so that we can actually do things like having the watercolour effect when we've got it, for example, on social media and stuff. But obviously for vinyl that's not going to do, so we can actually just increase that opacity back. Now these colours don't have to be accurate to vinyl if you don't want it to, but if it, you know, helps you out, then just brighten them up a bit. And as these are now individual shapes, don't need these groups. And again with this one, I'm just going to ungroup it and merge it. So we now have all of our elements ready to cut. But obviously if we were to cut these at the moment, our splodges are going to cut as they are. So if I hide, for instance, the pink, you can see it's going to cut all this yellow as well. So what you might want to do is kind of punch through your layers underneath, and then we could do things like add outlines. Now this is where the colour of your t-shirt is going to start to come into play. So if you are working with a black t-shirt and you want black outlines, you don't need any black vinyl. You use the t-shirt instead to do your black for you. It's going to save you a bit of material. Now if you're working on a white t-shirt and you want a black outline, obviously then you need to be cutting out your black vinyl, and you can layer your HTV over the top. Okay, so I'm planning on a white t-shirt, and I want to be able to apply this in such a way that I'm going to have a bit of margin for error. So what we can do is, let's work this through two shapes at a time. So I'm going to go right down to two shapes here. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is punch the yellow through our green. Now duplicate your yellow first, and the reason that I say to do that is obviously when we do subtraction anyway, it loses that top shape from the bottom, so you would be left with a splodge shaped hole. So you need to have that duplicate sat there ready to go back in. So I'm going to hide that for a second, that top duplicate, and we're going to work on this shape here. So remember how I said I wanted a bit of leeway in terms of being able to align this shape. So I still want to see roughly where it's going, but I want it so that we don't get any white edges. So what do? We're going to go to our offset, and we're going to drag it in just a little, so it's not huge amounts, but it's going to give us enough of a leeway that we're not going to get a white border. Okay, so you can see this outer blue line is where it was, and then our yellow shape is where it is. So at this point we can go bake appearance, and we're going to select those two shapes, and we're going to subtract. So then let's put our yellow back in, and we can see underneath, because our green is still selected, where that cut line actually goes. So it's going to give us a little bit of a leeway so that we're not having to match up exactly. So far so good. Next we're going to reveal the pink, and the pink is going to have the same issue. So we want to kind of cut out most of the yellow underneath so that we're not getting kind of a bump. So we're going to duplicate, hide the top one, go this one, go to offset and drag in very slightly. And there's no set amount here that is the right thing to do. Okay, and we're going to bake the appearance. Select that and the yellow underneath. And at this point, you may think, well, actually, it's going to be close to that green as well. So there might be some green that is overlapping. So before you do anything, just click back off that and back to that one where we did the offset. We can duplicate that one so that we can do it both from the yellow and the green. So first of all, from the yellow and subtract, and then back to our other pink. And this time we're going to use the command key so that we can pick up the green. Okay, if you're clicking on the actual shape itself, you're going to want to use shift, but over on the layers panel you're going to want to use the command key or control key on a PC. And again, we can subtract from there. So far so good. Put the pink back in and away we go. Now you're going to see that it's moved this green, so we're just going to drag that down to the bottom like so, so that we're keeping those splodges in order, and that way when we come to actually press them it's not going to go a bit haywire. So we've done all our work here on our little group, and then we're on to our text. Now you could do the same approach with the text of, right, okay, let's duplicate that, offset it, etc. But what I would say is then you are relying on getting that text perfectly in place. And to make life a little bit easier, because you've kept your overlay so flat, you should have a nice easy time of putting that text over the top with no issues. So far so good. But how can we put the white outline in? So there's a couple of ways that we could do it, and they will start with duplicating that initial text, and I'm just going to lock that copy. Now I'm going to go to the offset tool, so I'm working on the word underneath, and let's drag that out. And it's going to look like it goes really bold. That's okay, because I'm going to put white in there. So now once we've put that white in, we can start to tweak it, decide how much of an outline we want. Okay. And you could just cut that white shape from white vinyl and press that again. Okay, so if you're working on thicker t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, that type of material, you're not going to have any trouble with pressing that in terms of forcing the fabric to go in a way that it's not going to want to go, because you've got that heavyweight material. If you're working on a lightweight t-shirt, however, what you're going to want to do is actually punch that white back through. So you are going to need a copy for each colour underneath. So we have 3 colours here, the pink, the yellow, the green. So we're going to need 3 copies of that white. Okay, and we're then going to go and select that one and subtract. Back to the next copy, again using command or control so that we can select the 2 over the pink, and we can do that again. And lastly, that one again. So now our splodges are all back to front. Let's just sort that out very quickly. There we go. So we now have all of our colours ready to go, and that white border is going to help you line that text. So that's given you a few different ways that you can use your vinyl whether that's printable vinyl or solid colour vinyl, or even if you want to use something like flex or glitter, you can just swap those in. And as usual, if you want to do something like a glitter, then we can, let's say we're going to put glitter in here. You can go to your fill tool, which is the one that looks like a little gradient just here, and you can pop in here to bitmap, and then just pick up any glitter paper and just pop it in that shape, and then you can proof it to the client. There you go. So that's really weird. I looked up at my clock because my clock is waning a bit, and it's like, oh, it's 11:10. I'm like, no, I know that's not right. That would be the quickest stream ever. So I hope you've enjoyed that, but do let me know if you have any questions. So good morning, Delcy. Morning, Linda. Morning, Katia. And morning, Rita. Is there anything else you'd like me to show you while I have Affinity open? So there's about a 30-second delay between what I'm saying and when you kind of hear it. So we'll wait just a moment just to see if anybody has any questions. That's okay, Linda. And if you enjoyed that, don't forget to give it a like or a heart. And you are always welcome to share the streams that we do on the main page as well. They are publicly available. And if ever you want to come back and watch a particular video, the easiest way is to look it up on our YouTube channel. The link should be going on the bottom maybe, but it doesn't look like it quite is today. It looks like it's moved, so okay, I will leave it there for today and have fun, and I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. So big change, Thursday at 11, and we will be putting this onto a t-shirt, so that will be fun. So I will show you how to do the cutting, how to layer it up onto the t-shirt on the heat press, and there's going to be a little bit of pre-recorded content as well, just because they're getting the camera around to the press and things like that. So take care for now, and I will see you Thursday. Bye.